This is Celebration Church, but it's more than just a building or a church. We have a calling to be a place where people can find a relationship with God instead of religion. A place where freedom is found and acceptance given, and every person can discover their purpose and experience the kind of fulfillment only God can give. Together we will raise, lead, and empower a generation to change the world. Here, Jesus is famous, and all the glory goes to God. This is Celebration. This is our family. Welcome home.
To the one who gives us life, and life abundant. In the name of Jesus, we celebrate you, Father, for what you're doing, what you continue to do on our behalf. This is the day that you have made. Whatever comes, I won't complain. For all my hope is in your name, and now your joy awaits my praise. Somebody give thanks, come on. I give thanks for all you have done, and I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am when I was down, you brought me out. You set my feet on higher ground. So here I stand. You are my God. Oh yeah. Your faithfulness, my solid rock. Oh yeah. I give thanks for all you have done, and I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. I give thanks for all you have done. I won't forget all the battles you have won. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. And as we lift our hands, the heavens open. So let our lives declare the love our God has spoken over us. And as we lift our hands, the heavens open. So let our lives declare the love our God has spoken over us. I give thanks for all you have done, and I will sing of your mercy and your love. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful. I give thanks for all you have done. I won't forget all the battles you have won. Your love is unfailing. Lord, I am grateful.
So we pick it up now, and we read about this guy named Jephthah. Now, Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty warrior. He was a scrapper. He was a butt kicker. He was really kind of a mean, nasty guy. His father was Gilead. His mother was a prostitute. So Gilead has this romp with this prostitute and winds up with Jephthah. Well, Gilead's wife also bore him sons. And when they were growing up, they drove Jephthah away. You're not going to get any inheritance in our family, they said, because you're the son of another woman. So Jephthah fled from his brothers and settled in the land of Tob, where a gang of scoundrels gathered around him and followed him. So Jephthah is the head guy of the scoundrels. It's the scoundrel gang. He basically has a gang. He's a rapping gang leader. All right, I mean, this is his thing. And he's bad. He's bad. Nobody messes with these guys. They are nasty and mean. All right, so sometimes when these Ammonites were fighting against Israel, they got this war going on that nobody's taking charge. The elders of Gilead went to Jephthah from the land of Tob, said, come, be our commander so we can fight against the Ammonites. Now, they didn't particularly love him. He was a scoundrel. They didn't like him. They chased him off. But they knew something about him. He could get things done. He was a strong leader, even though he had lots of faults. Sounds like a bunch of leaders we have today. Anyway, so some of them are scoundrels, but they could get things done. So the people turned to him. So they said, come and be our commander so we can fight the Ammonites. And Jephthah says to them, didn't you hate me and drive me from my father's house? Why do you come to me now when you're in trouble? And the elders of Gilead said to him, nevertheless, we are turning to you now. Come with us and fight the Ammonites, and you will be the head over all of us who live in Gilead. And Jephthah answered, well, suppose you take me back to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gives them to me. Will I really be in charge of everybody? And the elders of Gilead replied, the Lord is our witness. We will certainly do as you say. So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head commander over them. And he repeated all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. So they basically make this vow, this commitment. If you will lead us, we will follow, and you will be in charge. So 3 takeaways from today's lesson. I want to give you 3 points, and all 3 of them have nothing to do with the other, all right? So hang in there with me. It is what it is. Number 1, God can use anybody he chooses. Amen. All right? Now sometimes we think, well, God can't use me because I've made so many mistakes. I came to faith too late in life. I have problems. I lost my job. I don't make much money. I got a divorce. Everything fell apart. Therefore, I am broken, no good. God can't do much with me. He tolerates me when I come to church, doesn't zap me with electricity, and that they think is the win. No. God can use anybody who's willing to yield to him. Isn't that good news? Praise God. Good news to me. So anyway, so this guy is a scoundrel, a rascal. Nobody likes him. But they become desperate, and God is looking for a leader. So sure enough, Jephthah decides to take on the job. All right, God can use anybody. By the way, you will notice as we look at these 3 judges, how jacked up and messed up they are. You remember Gideon? He was afraid. He was a coward. He was hiding. And an angel comes to him and says, you're a mighty warrior. He saw something in Gideon that Gideon couldn't see himself. We'll see the same thing with Samson. Samson was really jacked up. Wait till you hear this story. I mean, he was a mess of astronomical proportions. All right? And yet God still used him. And then this guy, God used him as well. You talk about imperfect people. In fact, if you look really closely in the Bible, most of the people that God uses were, in fact, blatantly imperfect people. All of them. What about Moses? Moses was a murderer. Remember, he kills the Egyptian, buries him in the sand. Apparently doesn't bury him too deep because the dogs come along, dig him up. So I don't know, somebody finds him the next few days. He's got to run for his life. He winds up on the backside of the desert for 40 years hiding out because he's a murderer. But yet God uses him. I mean, on and on, these stories, they're quite fascinating. So here again is another imperfect man. And he comes to the lead and he says, okay, I'll do it. I'll take the job. Well, the first thing Jephthah does is he tries diplomacy. Nobody really wants to go to war as much as people, just warmongers. Look, war is a horrible thing. The cost is enormous in blood and treasure. And Jephthah tries to reason with the Ammonites. He says, look, I haven't wronged you, but you're doing me wrong by waging war against me. Let's peace, man, peace. Let the Lord be judge, decide the dispute this day between the Israelites and the Ammonites. Let's work it out. Let's work it out. But the king of Ammon paid no attention to the message Jephthah sent him. So off to war they go. Here comes the big conflict. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah. He crossed Gilead, Manasseh, passed through Mizpah and Gilead, of Gilead, and from there advanced against the Ammonites. So here they are, God's with them, things are coming together. Here's this big conflict. They finally have a leader. The Spirit of the Lord comes on this leader, and this leader does an incredibly stupid, idiotic, and moronic thing. And we read it next. Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, if you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. So what he's saying to God as this is ready to go into battle, Lord, help me win this battle, and I will toast the first thing that comes out of my house when I get home. Now, who do you think he's expecting to come out of his house when he gets home? The old lady, right? I mean, come on. So he's basically, Lord, let me win, and I'll toast the old lady when I get back. I'll get rid of the chick. You know, because a goat's not going to come out, right? Somebody's got to come out. Who lives in there? His wife lives with him. Well, so this is this vow he makes. Now, a lot of Bible scholars have really struggled over this thing. Look, you have to understand, number two, not everything you read in the Bible was God. The Bible is God-inspired, but not every event was God. People did all kinds of incredibly stupid things in the name of God, but it wasn't God. God never told him to do this. God never responds to him. He just makes this vow. Why would he make such a vow? Because he was so affected by paganism. This is not a church-going, Bible-believing, Sunday school-attending man. He's a scoundrel. Nobody likes him. They get rid of him. He winds up leading a gang, going around, and, it wasn't like they, had potlucks out there. They were going around and harassing people, stealing stuff. And he was tough, and he was nasty and mean. Everybody was afraid of him. And they finally said, would you lead us? Because you're the one who's got any guts. So he's ignorant. Ignorant. I-G-N-E-R-T, ignorant. That's not the word of the day, by the way. All right, so he is affected by paganism. What were these pagans doing? They would often sacrifice their children to these false gods and these idols. He just figures, well, this is what the Lord must want. I'll sacrifice, whatever. So anyway, this is what he does. Now, he didn't need to make the vow. God was already with him. The Spirit of God was on him. Everything was going in his favor. He didn't need to make the vow. There's nothing about this that God has sanctioned in any way, shape, or form. And to give you an example, people kind of still do this today. Jesus died on the cross for the sins of the world. The Bible says God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. This is where we find forgiveness. This is where we find redemption. But there are people who still try to bargain with God on the side. Lord, if you just forgive me, I'll do this. Oh God, please forgive me for what I did, and I'll give $30 to the United Way. Whatever their deal is. There's people who still, there are so many millions of people who claim the name of Christians. But their whole approach to Christianity is they want to be a little bit better than they are worse. So if I'm better than I'm bad, then I'll get into heaven. You know what I'm talking about? Some of you used to think that. Millions of people think that. Well, you talk about giving your life to Jesus. Well, I'm not such a bad guy. I don't let my dog poop in my neighbor's yard, and I help little ladies across the street. So, I'm sure I punch that one guy in the face, but, I'm just a little bit better. If I'm just a little bit better than I'm bad, then I'll make it. No, you don't understand. Life is not a scale like this, a good man. Here's the scale. Bad. We are really, really bad. Even the nicest person among us has a scale like this. The Bible says there is no one who is righteous. There's no one who's holy. No one has gotten this right ever. It's part of the fallen nature of men. Now, comparing one scoundrel to the other, some of us are nicer scoundrels than the next. And some are horrible. We read about these horrible people who do unbelievably tragic, ghastly things, and we think, at least I'm not that bad. I must be okay. No, we're all jacked up. Jesus comes. He dies on the cross. He pays the punishment, the price for our sins, and he's the one who makes things right. And then it goes like this. Not because of what you've done, but because of what he did. You see, there's no bargaining and stuff. There'd be no reason to bargain, with God when Christ has already paid the price. If you're trying to pay your own price so that you think God will like you more or get you into heaven, you don't get this. You've missed it. And this is Jephthah. He doesn't get it. He's already going to battle. God's with him. And I got a bargain. So he makes this bargain, which is just stupid and ignorant. So anyway, so when Jephthah returned to his home in Mizpah, after he has this big battle, he wins, by the way. He totally wipes out this because he's a butt kicker. I mean, I hope the Bible has instant replay when we get to heaven, I would love to see some of these things. They just pass over. I'm like, how did you do that? So something about him, he was sharp. He knew how to fight. He had the right tactics. It would probably make a great movie. So anyway, he sets up, and the Ammonites come in because they've been whooping these guys for almost 20 years, and now they run into this wall that Jephthah has up, and he wipes them all out and has a great victory. So now, this horrible plague of the Ammonites torturing the Israelites is gone. He comes back. He's a hero. Now, when Jephthah returns to his home in Mizpah, who should come out to meet him but his daughter, dancing to the sound of the timbrels. Now, she was an only child. Except for her, he had neither son nor daughter. And when he saw her, he tore his clothes. Again, very dramatic. They would always do this stuff. Tore his clothes, he cries. Oh no, my daughter, you have brought me down and I am devastated. I made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break. Now, it's an act of ignorance. Pure, unadulterated ignorance. This is a portion of Scripture that oftentimes people will try and debate. Why would God have somebody? God had nothing to do with it. All they're doing is recording what this nimwit did. All right, so he sees his daughter. He thought, well, I can't break this vow. And they come, remember, they have been so affected by this is not unusual practice. And you can read all kinds of theologians that jump through back hoops and say, well, it wasn't really that he didn't really sacrifice her. It was this, that, and many of you have heard all these things. I'm telling you, he toasted the chick. Well, how do you know that? Because that's what they did. Look, God warned them. In Leviticus, he says, do not give any of your children to be sacrificed to Moloch, which is one of these pagan gods. For you must not profane the name of the Lord, name of your God. I am the Lord. But look what Ezekiel cries out. He says, for they committed adultery and blood is on their hands. They committed adultery with their idols. They even sacrificed their children, whom they bore to me as food for them. And the Bible lists this many, 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 many times in the Old Testament. When the prophets would come and start crying against it, one of the crimes that they had against Israel. Again, it wasn't because they were not as devout as they should or they didn't go to church every day. They got caught up into paganism, and the kind of paganism that most of us can't even begin to comprehend. People will say, why did God destroy these cultures? These were not good people. And I mean, that's an understatement. They were violent, disgusting. The practices they would do would make a normal person want to vomit. These were horrible pagan cultures, just not non-Christian cultures. These were pagan, nasty cultures, caught up in all kinds of ritualistic sufferings and tortures and sacrificing their own children to these gods, take their babies and cut them up. I mean, it was nuts. You hear about these things, they take a virgin and sacrifice. That's what they did. They really did. It was very common. And not only did they do it, the Israelites did it. And God was appalled by their behavior, and the prophets would cry out against this stuff. So anyway, the guy comes, he says, I don't know what I'm going to do. And the girl says, Dad, you've given your word to the Lord. Do to me just as you promised. Why would she willingly accept this? This was so ingrained in their culture. This had happened many times. This is what they did. It was so ingrained in the culture. She's okay. I guess I'm the next one to go up. And she says, just do me a promise. Now that the Lord has avenged your enemies, but grant me one request. Give me 2 months to roam the hills and weep with my friends because I will never marry. What? You're going to be fried, and her biggest concern is, I won't have a boyfriend. So, and listen, you girls are like, do when it comes to this stuff. I don't get it. I'll never get it. But how many girls I've talked to, you start talking about Jesus coming back in the end of the world, you know what they say to me? I hope it doesn't happen yet. Why? Because I want to get married first. Really, right? They have this fantasy of this glorious day. I'll be looking so beautiful. So God, don't come back until this happens. Then they get married and God, I can't stand this idiot. What was I thinking? But her reaction wasn't she's going to get toasted. She said, I'm not going to get married now. And he said, okay, you can go. And he let her go for 2 months. And she and her friends went into the hills and wept because she would never marry. I would be weeping, he's going to kill me. That would be my weeping. After 2 months, she returned to her father, and he did it to her as he vowed, and she was a virgin. And that's what they did. This comes to the Israelite tradition that each year the young women of Israel go out for 4 days and commemorate the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite. Now, many, if you were to study this on your own, you'll find many, because so many people assume that God had a hand in this. He didn't. So what they say is, no, what he sacrificed was she just didn't never get to be married. She had to remain a virgin the rest of her life. That was the sacrifice. Horse manure, it was not the sacrifice. They did this stuff, and it was horrible, and it was awful. And it's what brought the judgment of God down on them. All right, now, the next section. So what happens is they go to war. Now, what they had done is they had called everybody together. Come on, let's go get these guys. Well, the Ephraimites were called, but they didn't go for whatever reason. But when they had this great victory, now they're ticked off that they didn't go. And they feel, you didn't ask me hard enough or something. So we read now, the Ephraimites' forces were called out, and they crossed over to Zaphon, and they said to Jephthah, why did you go fight the Ammonites without calling us to go with you? We're going to burn down your house over your head. We just can't grasp how barbaric the culture is at this time. It has been so bad. Their version of disagreeing is, we're going to come and kill you and burn your house over your head. Well, Jephthah answered, hey, I and my people were engaged in a great struggle with the Ammonites, and though I called, you didn't come. When I saw that you wouldn't help, I took my life into my own hands and crossed over to fight the Ammonites. And the Lord gave me the victory over them. Well, now why have you come up to fight me today? Well, they're mad. They're mad. You had this great victory, and now we're not part of the victory. And you didn't ask right or something. I don't know. People are crazy. So Jephthah called together the men of Gilead, and they fought against Ephraim. Now it's a civil war. And the Gilead struck them down, because the Ephraimites had said, you Gileads are renegades from Ephraim and Manasseh. You're a bunch of half-breeds anyway. So they had a civil war, and the Gileads captured the fords of the Jordan leading to Ephraim. So they basically, Jephthah and his guys, wiped them out. They win again. And the Gileads captured the fords of the Jordan leading to Ephraim. So this battle happens on over by the Gileads. And whatever survivors of Ephraim, they wanted to cross back over to get back to their home. So it says, whenever a survivor of Ephraim said, let me cross over, the men of Gilead asked them, are you an Ephraimite? Because they all look the same. They're the same people. He says, if he replied no, they all said, all right, well then say Shibboleth. And if the guy said Sibboleth, because he could not pronounce the word correctly, they seized him and killed him in the fords of the Jordan. 42,000 Ephraimites were killed at that time. They couldn't say that. It was part of their culture. It's kind of like in northern Wisconsin, up by the Yoopers. They can't say their THs. It's a ting. It's the one ting. Like the 30-point buck. Right? Did you see the 30-pointer? So every time there's someone who couldn't say the 30-pointer, my dad had this problem. He could never see tape, but it was hilarious because he'd always say, because I have an older brother, then there's me and my brother Eddie. Y'all know my brother, and he would say, Stephen was the first, Mark was the second, Edwin was the third. And I said, that's right, Dad. He is the third to this very day. By the way, those of you in the second service here, you're seeing me on video right now because I'm getting on a plane right after the service to go. We're having a Gungor sibling reunion. And I'm taking Deanna to meet my family for the first time. You might want to pray for her. This could be a deal killer. I'm telling you right now. And run. But anyway, so I'm going to go see the turd and the other turds in my family. So they have this Shibboleth. That's your word for the day, children. Shibboleth. This word actually is still used. If you'll pay attention to, and I know younger people don't pay attention to political commentaries, every once in a while you listen to someone and they'll say, well, that was a shibboleth. And if you're not catching it, you don't know what they're saying. What it stands for today is people who don't say the right thing. If you don't say the right thing, they try and kill you. Not literally, they don't try to kill you, but they come against you. It's all part of this PC culture today, right? If you don't say the exact right thing the right way, shibboleth! Shibboleth! And they go nuts today. If you don't say the right, proper thing, and I'm always saying the wrong thing. You have no idea how many people tell me, you can't say that. Really? It's a shibboleth! It's a shibboleth! We have this in the political discourse today. If you say you voted for Barack Obama, some people, shibboleth, shibboleth! And they get all mad and crazy. Relax. Or on some people, you tell them you voted for Mr. Jephthah in the White House, right? The butt-kicking, nasty guy. You voted for Trump, shibboleth! Or if you wear a Make America Great Again hat, shibboleth! They go crazy. People have lost their minds in this country, going nuts, reacting to everything and all over the place. Because one word sends people off. They go crazy. Man, don't be getting all caught up in these shibboleths. Quit reacting to people. Quit having knee-jerk reactions to people. Try and listen to them without having a reaction to whatever word that they say to you. Sometimes even just discussing faith. I remember one time I was talking to a guy. He didn't believe in God. He starts, well, because, we all evolved and stuff. And as soon as I heard the word evolved, it was a shibboleth. And I wanted to attack him about evolution, but I thought, keep your mouth shut. It's like I heard the Lord say, shh, shut up. And I let the shibboleth go. And the guy kept talking and talking, and then when he just kept talking, finally he got to the point. The reason he had a hard time believing God, he couldn't believe that God could really love us. Oh, let me talk to you about that, you see. Let me talk about it. And see, I was able to speak into the guy's life about how God really does love us. But oftentimes we don't really hear people's hearts because we're too quick to respond to shibboleth! A phrase, a word, something that sets us off. The minute people say things, they judge you just like that. Don't do that. It's hard not to. It's really hard not to. We got to watch for that stuff. Don't have these knee-jerk reactions at people. Try to listen to what people say and not get so caught up in all this political correctness and all this other crazy stuff. You immediately judge. People will immediately love you or hate you based on one word or phrase that you say. That's crazy, all right? And certainly we as people of faith, we all have our opinions, I get that, but we as people of faith should not be reacting to such things. We need to listen to people, hear people. Don't just overreact. They mention something that we might disagree with or whatever, and right away you go all nuts and crazy. Stop. Try and listen. Don't be caught up. That's part number 3. Don't have knee-jerk reactions to the shibboleths of our current day.